Hello everyone, I'm Vincent from Musundu Free English. Thanks for clicking, and welcome to this lesson on adverbs. Adverbs modify or tell us more about other words, usually verbs. Examples: the bus moved slowly. The bears ate greedily. Sometimes they tell us more about adjectives. Examples: you look absolutely fabulous. They can also modify other verbs. Examples: she played the violin extremely well. You're speaking too quietly. More examples of adverbs: easily, angrily, happily, luckily. Probably, terribly, gently. Basically, economically, tragically, publicly. Some adverbs have the same form as the adjectives. Early, late, fast, near, hard, straight, high, wrong. Compare: it's fast car. He drives very fast. This is a hard-won exercise. He works hard. We saw many high buildings. The bird flew high in the sky. Types of adverbs. Adverbs of place: here, everywhere. Adverbs of manner: quickly, slowly. Adverbs of degree: very, too. Adverbs of certainty: certainly, definitely, probably, undoubtedly, surely. Viewpoint: commenting. Adverbs: honestly, personally, surprisingly, ideally, officially, obviously, clearly, undoubtedly. Interrogative, relative. Adverbs: why, where, how, when. Adverbs of time: now, yesterday. Adverbs of frequency: often, rarely. Conjunctive adverbs: also, anyway, besides, certainly, earlier, finally, further, for instance, for example, however, hence, in addition, instead, later, likewise, moreover, namely, next, now, nevertheless, on the other hand, otherwise, perhaps, so, still, then, therefore, thus, and undoubtedly. A. Adverbs of place. Adverbs of place tell us where something happens. They are usually placed after the main verb or after the object. After the main verb. Examples: I looked everywhere. John looked away, up, down, around. I'm going home, out, back. Come in. After the object. Examples: they built a house nearby. She took the child outside. Common adverbs of place: here and there. With verbs of movement, here means towards or with the speaker. Examples: come here, equals towards me. It's here, equals come with me to see. There means away from, or not with the speaker. Examples: put it there, equals away from me. It's in there, equals go by yourself to see it. Here and there are combined with prepositions to make many common adverbial phrases. Examples: down here, down there, over here, over there, under there, up here, up there. Here and there are placed at the beginning of the sentence in exclamations or when emphasis is needed. Examples: here comes the bus, followed by the verb. Here it is. Followed by the pronoun. There she goes. Followed by the pronoun. NB. Most common adverbs of places also function as prepositions. Examples: about, across, along, behind, by, down, in, off, on, over, round, through, under, up. Other adverbs of place. Ending in wards, expressing movement in a particular direction. Backwards, forwards, downwards, upwards, inwards, outward, northwards, southwards, eastwards, westwards, homewards, onwards. Cats usually don't walk backwards. The ship sailed westwards. Be careful, towards is a preposition, not an adverb, so it's always followed by a noun or a pronoun. Examples: he walked towards the car. She ran towards me. Expressing both movement and location. Ahead, abroad, overseas, uphill, downhill, sideways, indoors, outdoors. Examples: the child went indoors. He lived and worked abroad. B. Adverbs of manner. Adverbs of manner tell us how something happens. They are usually placed after the main verb or after the object. Examples: he swims well, after the main verb. He ran, rapidly, slowly, quickly. James coughed loudly to catch her attention. She spoke, softly, loudly, aggressively. He plays the flute beautifully, after the object. He ate the chocolate cake greedily. Be careful. The adverb should not be put between the verb and the object. Examples: incorrect, he ate greedily the chocolate cake. Correct, he ate the chocolate cake greedily. If there's a preposition before the object, examples: at, towards, we can place the adverb either before the preposition or after the object. Examples: the child ran happily towards his mother. The child ran towards his mother happily. Sometimes an adverb of manner is placed before a verb plus object to add emphasis. Example: he gently woke the sleeping woman. Some writers put an adverb of manner at the beginning of the sentence to catch our attention and make us curious. Example: slowly, she picked up the knife. However, adverbs should always come after intransitive verbs, verbs which have no object. Examples: the town grew quickly. He waited patiently. Also, these common adverbs are almost always placed after the verb. Well, badly, hard, fast. The position of the adverb is important when there's more than one verb in a sentence. If the adverb is placed after a clause, then it modifies the whole action described by the clause. Examples: she quickly agreed to retype the letter, equals her agreement was quick. She agreed to retype the letter quickly, equals the retyping was quick. He quietly asked me to leave the house, equals his request was quiet. He asked me to leave the house quietly, equals the leaving of the house was quiet. See, adverbs of degree. Adverbs of degree tell us about the intensity or degree of an action, an adjective or another adverb. Common adverbs of degree: almost, nearly, quite, just, too, enough, hardly, scarcely, completely, very, extremely. Adverbs of degree are usually placed 1. Before the adjective or adverb they are modifying. Example: the water was extremely cold. 2. Before the main verb. E.g., he was just leaving. She has almost finished. More examples: she doesn't quite know what she'll do after the university. They are completely exhausted from the trip. I'm too tired to go out tonight. He hardly noticed what she was saying. Enough, as an adverb meaning, to the necessary degree, goes after adjectives and adverbs. Examples: is your coffee hot enough? Adjective. He didn't work hard enough, adverb. It also goes before nouns, and means, as much as is necessary. In this case it is not an adverb but a determiner. Examples: we have enough bread. They don't have enough food. 2. As an adverb meaning, more than is necessary or useful, goes before adjectives and adverbs. Examples: this coffee is too hot, adjective. He works too hard, adverb. Enough and too, with adjectives can be followed by, for someone/something. Examples: the dress was big enough for me. She's not experienced enough for this job. The coffee was too hot for me. The dress was too small for her. We can also use to plus infinitive after enough and to with adjective/adverb. Examples: the coffee was too hot to drink. He didn't work hard enough to pass the exam. You're too young to have grandchildren. Very goes before an adverb or adjective to make it stronger. Examples: the girl was very beautiful, adjective. He worked very quickly, adverb. If we want to make a negative form of adjective or adverb, we can use a word of opposite meaning or not very. Examples: the girl was ugly or the girl was not very beautiful. She worked slowly or she didn't work very quickly. Be careful. There's a big difference between too and very. Very expresses a fact. Example: he speaks very quickly. Too suggests there's a problem. Example: he speaks too quickly, for me to understand. These common adverbs are used like very and not very, and are listed in order of strength, from positive to negative. Extremely, especially, particularly, pretty, rather, quite, fairly, not especially, not particularly. NB, rather can be positive or negative depending on the adjective or adverb that follows. Positive, the teacher was rather nice. Negative, the teacher was rather disappointing. With negative adverbs, normally the subject goes before the verb. However, some negative adverbs can cause an inversion, the order is reversed and the verb goes before the subject. Examples: I have never seen such a courage. Never have I seen such a courage. She rarely left the house. Rarely did she leave the house. Negative inversion is used in writing, not in speaking. Other adverbs and adverbial expressions that can be used like this are seldom, scarcely, hardly, not only, but also, no sooner, than, not until, under no circumstances. D. Adverbs of certainty. Adverbs of certainty expresses how certain or sure we feel about an action or event. Common adverbs of certainty: certainly, definitely, probably, undoubtedly, surely. 1. Adverbs of certainty go before the main verb but after the verb, to be. Examples: he definitely left the house this morning. He's probably in the park. 2. With other auxiliary verb, these adverbs go between the auxiliary and the main verb. Examples: he has certainly forgotten the meeting. He will probably remember tomorrow. 3. Sometimes these adverbs can be placed at the beginning of the sentence. Example: undoubtedly, Winston Churchill was a great politician. Be careful, with surely. When it's placed at the beginning of the sentence, it means the speaker thinks something is true, but is looking for confirmation. Example: surely, you've got a bicycle. E. Viewpoint and commenting adverbs. These are some adverbs and adverbial expressions which tell us about the speaker's viewpoint or opinion about an action, or make some comments on the action. Viewpoint. These adverbs are placed at the beginning of the sentence and are separated from the rest of the sentence by a comma. Some common viewpoint adverbs: honestly, seriously, confidentially, personally, surprisingly, ideally, surely, economically, officially, obviously, clearly, undoubtedly. Frankly, I think he's a liar, equals this is my frank, honest opinion. Theoretically, you should pay a fine, equals from a theoretical point of view, but there may be another way of looking at the situation. Personally, I'd rather go by train. Surprisingly, this car is cheaper than the smaller model. Geographically, Britain is rather cut off from the rest of Europe. Commenting. These are very similar to viewpoint adverbs, and often the same words, but they go in a different position, after the verb, to be, and before the main verb. Some common commenting adverbs: definitely, certainly, obviously, simply. Examples: she's certainly the best person for the job. You obviously enjoyed your meal. F. Interrogative adverbs. These are why, where, how, when. They're usually placed at the beginning of a question. Examples: why are you so late? Where is my passport? How much is that coat? When does the train arrive? Notice that how can be used in 4 different ways. 1. Meaning, in what way? Examples: how did you make this sauce? How do you start the car? 2. With adjectives. Examples: how tall are you? How old is your house? 3. With much and many. Examples: how much are these tomatoes? How many people are coming to the party? 4. With other adverbs. Examples: how quickly can you read this? How often do you go to London? F. Relative adverbs. The following adverbs can be used to join sentences or clauses. They replace the more formal structure of preposition plus which, in a relative clause. Where, when, and why. Examples: that's the restaurant where we met for the first time, where equals at / in which. I remember the day when we first met, when equals on which. There was a very hot summer the year when he was born, when equals in which. Tell me, the reason, why you were late home. Why equals for which, but could replace the whole phrase, the reason for which. G. Adverbs of time. Adverbs of time tell us when an action happened, but also for how long, and how often. Examples, when, today, yesterday, later, now, last year. For how long, all day, not long, for a while, since last year. How often, sometimes, frequently, never, often, yearly. When adverbs are usually placed at the end of the sentence. Examples, Goldilocks went to the bear's house yesterday. I'm going to tidy my room tomorrow. This is a neutral position, but see, when adverbs can be put in other positions to give a different emphasis. Compare, later Goldilocks ate some porridge, the time is more important. Goldilocks later ate some porridge, this is more formal like policeman's report. Goldilocks ate some porridge later, this is neutral, no particular emphasis. For how long adverbs are usually placed at the end of the sentence. Examples, she stayed in the bear's house all day. My mother lived in France for a year. Notice, for is always followed by an expression of duration. Examples, for 3 days. For several years. For a week. For 2 centuries. Since is always followed by an expression of a point in time. Examples, since Monday. Since 1997. Since last year. How often adverbs, expressing the frequency of an action are usually placed before the main verb but after the auxiliary verbs, such as be, have, may, must. Examples, I often eat vegetarian food, before the main verb. He never drinks milk, before the main verb. You must always fasten your seatbelt, after the auxiliary must. She's never seasick, after auxiliary is. I've never forgotten my first kiss, after the auxiliary have and before the main verb forgotten. Some other, how often adverbs, express the exact number of times an action happens and are usually placed at the end of the sentence. Examples, this magazine is published monthly. He visits his mother once a week. When a frequency adverb is placed at the end of a sentence it's much stronger. Compare, she regularly visits France. She visits France regularly. Adverbs that can be used in these two positions, sometimes, frequently, normally, often, usually, generally, occasionally, regularly. Yet and still. Yet is used in questions and in negative sentences, and is placed at the end of the sentence or after not. Examples, have you finished your work yet? Equals a simple request for information. No, not yet, equals simple negative. They haven't met him yet, equals a simple negative statement. Haven't you finished yet? Expressing slight surprise. Still, express continuity, it's used in positive sentences and questions and is placed before the main verb and after auxiliary verbs, such as be, have, might, will. Examples, I'm still hungry. Are you still here? She's still waiting for you. Do you still work for the BBC? Order of adverbs of time. If you need to use more than one adverb of time at the end of a sentence, use them in this order. 1. How long? 2. How often? 3. When? Examples, I work for 5 hours every day. The magazine was published weekly last year. I was abroad for 2 months last year. She worked in a hospital for 2 days every week last year. So, to, neither, either. We use, so do I, to say that a positive sentence is also true to the speaker, and we use, neither do I, to say that a negative sentence is also true for speaker. Examples, Peter hates mushrooms. So do I also hate mushrooms. Mary doesn't live in London. Neither do I, equals I also don't live in London. The verb after, so or neither, changes depending on the tense of the verb in the first sentence. Examples, Lucy likes coffee. So do I, present simple, use do/does. John's at the office. So do I, present simple with be, use am/is/are. John isn't at the office. Neither do I. Jill went to the cinema yesterday. So did I, past simple, use did. Jill didn't go to the cinema yesterday. Neither did I. She was at the library. So was I, past simple with be, use was/were. She wasn't at the library. Neither was I. They've been to Columbia. So have I, present perfect, use have/has. They haven't been to Columbia. Neither have I. Edward will be at the cafe later. So will I, future simple, use will. Edward won't be at the cafe later. Neither will I. He would like a cup of tea. So would I. Modal verbs, repeat the modal verb. He wouldn't like a cup of tea. Neither would I. Emma can speak Russian. So can I. Emma can't speak Russian. Neither can I. Luke is going out tonight. So am I, present continuous, use am, is, are. Luke isn't going out tonight. Neither am I. What about, to and either? We can also use, I do too and I don't either, which mean the same as, so do I and neither do I. Examples, Peter hates mushrooms. I do too, equals I also hate mushrooms. Mary doesn't live in London. I don't either, equals I also don't live in London. The verb changes in the same way as with, so do I and neither do I. Remember you need a negative verb with either. Present tense, John's at the office. I am too. Present continuous, Luke isn't going out tonight. I'm not either. Present perfect, they've been to Columbia, I have too. Modal verbs, Emma can't speak Russian. I can't either. Me too and me neither. We can also use, me too and me neither. Me too, has the same meaning as, so plus auxiliary verb plus I, and me neither, has the same meaning as, neither plus auxiliary verb plus I. Me too and me neither are very informal. Examples, Peter hates mushrooms. Me too, equals I also hate mushrooms. Mary doesn't live in London. Me neither, I also don't live in London. Conjunctive adverbs. A conjunctive adverb connects two independent classes or sentences. Other adverbs modify or add to a word, but a conjunctive adverb affects a sentence. The term conjunctive comes from the Latin for, join together. Conjunctive adverb brings together two complete thoughts. Each clause can stand on its own as a sentence. The first clause is followed by a semicolon. Sometimes there's a comma after the conjunctive adverb. Following is a list of conjunctive adverbs. Also, anyway, besides, certainly, earlier, finally, further, for instance, for example, however, hence, in addition, instead, later, likewise, moreover, namely, next, now, nevertheless, on the other hand, otherwise, perhaps, so, still, then, therefore, thus, and undoubtedly. Conjunctive adverbs can be grouped according to function. This may help you understand them a bit better. Sometimes their function is addition. An example of these would be, in addition, next, still, also and again. Comparison is another way they work, such as words like also, likewise, and similarly. Concession is sometimes made with words like granted and of course. Adverbs like although, instead, in spite of, and regardless, show a contrast. Sometimes emphasis is the function with words like indeed, of course, and certainly. Conjunctive adverbs can illustrate with words such as, for example, namely, thus and in conclusion. Words that summarize include, all in all, that is, in summary, and finally. Time can be referred to with these words, before, meanwhile, furthermore, lately, now, since, and thereafter. Examples of conjunctive adverbs. Conjunctive adverbs are also called adverbial conjunctions. Here are a few examples to further illustrate what they do for sentences. I wanted to see a scary movie, however, my friend wanted to see a comedy. You need to concentrate on your studies, otherwise, you will fail the class. The thunder and lightning were intense, consequently, the crowd dispersed. He enjoyed getting a new tie, nevertheless, a sports car would have been a better gift. We really need to go to the mall. In addition, we should see a movie. Conjunctive adverbs act like conjunctions, however, they're adverbs. Other functions. Conjunctive adverb can also function as a regular adverb and modify a verb, an adjective or another adverb. In this case, they will not need extra punctuation. Here's an example: he was accordingly very interested in jazz. In this sentence the word, accordingly, is acting like an adverb and modifying the verb, interested. Many times a conjunctive adverb will start a sentence and need a comma after it since it appears before an independent clause. Following are some examples: therefore, I will eat green eggs and ham. In other words, English is a hard language. Above all, we must try and save the planet. Comparative and superlative adverbs. In general, comparative and superlative forms of adverbs are the same as for adjectives. Add or s to short adverbs. Adverbs: comparative, superlative. Hard, harder, the hardest. Quietly, more quietly, most quietly. Some adverbs have irregular comparative and superlative forms. Adverb: comparative, superlative. Bad, worse, worst. Far, farther/further, farthest/furthest. Little, less, least. Well, better, best. Examples: Jim works harder than his brother. Everyone in the race ran fast, but John ran the fastest of all. The teacher spoke more slowly to help us to understand. Could you sing more quietly, please? The little boy ran farther from his friends. You're driving worse today than yesterday. Be careful. Sometimes, most can mean very. Examples: we were most grateful for your help. I'm most impressed by this application. Well and good. Well is the adverb that corresponds to the adjective, good. Examples: he's a good pianist. She plays the piano well. They are good swimmers. They swim well. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe for more grammar tips and lessons. Good luck and keep practicing.